He barged into my room. Again, right in the middle of an intimate moment with my girlfriend, drunk, loud, and laughing like it was his house. That was the moment something inside me snapped. I realized this wasn't a roommate problem. This was a war one never asked for, and if he wanted chaos, I was about to give him the kind he'd never recover from. I was in my early 20s when this all started, living in a tiny town that had more potholes than job opportunities. I'd just lost my job, not for lack of trying, but because sometimes life just sucker punches you in the throat and expects you to keep walking. My girlfriend at the time worked long daytime shifts at a nursing home, and our roommate, Bob, worked 2 jobs. He was a heavy drinker and partier, but he mostly did that outside the house. For the most part, it was peaceful. I felt useless, not because anyone said I was, but because I believed it. I had always been the one taking care of us, and now all I could do was cook, clean, and keep the fridge full with food stamps. It wasn't glamorous, but it was something. At least the house stayed spotless, meals were ready, and nobody had to come home to more work after hours of exhaustion, for a while. It worked. Then Bob decided his old high school buddy, we'll call him Dick, for reasons that will become painfully obvious, needed a place to stay. "Don't worry, he'll barely be home," Bob said. "He works on the boats. He's gone a month at a time. Only here for 2 weeks. 2 weeks? We could handle that. Day 1 proved we could not." Bob walked Dick over to introduce us, and Dick immediately tried to crush my hand in that pathetic, insecure, "I'm an alpha" handshake some guys do when they want to establish dominance. Then he said the words that made my blood run hot. "So you don't work and live here rent-free? Must be nice." Guess that's why Bob asked me to move in. Before I could speak, Bob jumped in, explaining that I cooked, cleaned, and stocked the food, that I wasn't mooching. Dick just smirked. Then he looked at my girlfriend and said, "His girlfriend works while he sits at home all day. That's not cool. You need a real man taking care of you." My girlfriend shut him down instantly. God, I loved her for that. But he kept pushing, making little jokes about needing a working man or how she deserved someone like him. From that moment on, we avoided him like the plague. If Dick had even a fraction of self-awareness, things might have been manageable. But no, he had the social skills of a broken lawn chair. He barged into our living area constantly, no knocking. No warning, sometimes during a conversation, sometimes during dinner, sometimes during sex. Every time it happened, I felt rage crawl up my spine. My girlfriend would jump or cover herself, and Dick just acted like we were inconveniencing him. But that was nothing compared to the 2-week tornado he brought every time he came home from the boats. He threw massive parties upstairs, sometimes a dozen people or more, loud, drunk, stomping, screaming, blasting music until the walls vibrated. The floors thudded like a herd of buffalo was dancing above us. The mess, unbelievable. Trash everywhere, beer bottles rolling down the stairs, damage to the walls. Food vanishing from the fridge, our food, because Dick and his drunk friends would eat everything. The neighbors hated us, even though it was all him. They called the cops more than once. Still, Dick didn't care. Bob barely saw any of it. He worked constantly and drank himself unconscious whenever he was actually home. Finally, my girlfriend and I sat him down and explained everything. Bob was furious at Dick and promised he would fix it. Spoiler, he did not fix anything. Dick just doubled down. More intrusions, more parties, more chaos, more disrespect. At that point, we were living in a nightmare, trapped financially, unable to move out, and afraid that complaining too much might get us kicked out. Because Dick was Bob's oldest friend, so I made a decision. If I couldn't escape hell, I'd bring hell to him. I wasn't going to confront him or fight him. That would give him satisfaction. No, I was going to cut him down quietly, slowly, surgically, like psychological acupuncture. Let's begin with. The washer and dryer were in our living area downstairs, so Dick had no choice but to come down to wash his clothes. Every time he threw a load into the dryer, I waited, listened, and once he went back upstairs, I'd open the dryer, stop it, and pee directly into it, then I'd start it back up. His clothes would come out warm, dry, and smelling like the inside of a gas station bathroom. He'd sniff his shirts, confused and irritated. "My clothes smell like piss," he'd grumble, every single time. He couldn't figure it out, mainly because Dick had all the intelligence of a traffic cone. Dick loved his alcohol. He loved it so much he stocked enough to drown a moose. Whenever he left the house, I'd sneak upstairs and pour out 75% of every bottle, whiskey, vodka, rum, you name it, and refill them with water. It didn't stop the parties, but oh, it slowed them down. Instead of getting drunk and belligerent by midnight, people were just confused and wandering around like toddlers on roller skates. Dick would eventually storm out at 2 or 3 a.m. Furious, he ran out and had to buy more. It was beautiful. This one? This was pure pity artistry. Whenever Dick left the house, I'd grab his toothbrush, dip it in the toilet, swirl it around, then put it right back. Yes, I wash my hands afterward. No, I do not regret it. Dick kept complaining. Why does my mouth taste like shit? I swear something's wrong, buddy. Something was wrong. And it was you. It also made it harder for him to hook up during his parties. Small victories. The final phase was the masterpiece. Dick owned a massive truck with ridiculously oversized custom tires. These things cost $300, $400 each and had to be special ordered. Every time he left to return to the boats, I placed long nails under 2 of his tires. Not enough to burst them on the spot, just enough to puncture them slowly as he drove. He'd make it all the way to wherever his boat was docked. But when he went to leave, his tires were flatter than his personality. He had to scramble to find replacements in unfamiliar locations, stay in hotels, and miss days, sometimes weeks, of his off time. That meant his 2 weeks at home turned into 1 week. Sometimes even a few days. It was glorious. The peace, the quiet, the lack of stomping and screaming and barging into our room. He was losing money, time, and sanity, and he had no idea why. After 2 or 3 months, Dick cracked. He told Bob he was moving out because everything had gone wrong since he moved in. Bob later told us he was planning to kick Dick out anyway because he trashed the house and wouldn't to pay his share of the utilities. Everything was lining up perfectly. Dick returned a week late from the boats because, surprise, surprise, his tires were destroyed again. He didn't even have a day to relax. He had to immediately find a new place to live, move his stuff, and get out. On his final day, he charged into our room, one last violation of our privacy, and launched into a rant. Everything has been going wrong. Ever since I moved here. Bad luck everywhere. Nothing feels right. He clearly wanted sympathy. We gave him none. We didn't even look up at first. Finally, we both turned and said, calm as ever, you've been a terrible roommate. You disrespected everyone here. You deserve everything that happened, all of it. His face twisted. He stormed out and never came back. Later, Bob told us Dick had been couch surfing ever since because nobody wanted him around. Not even his old friends. Karma didn't just visit him. Karma moved in and redecorated. I sometimes wonder if I went too far. But then I remember the noise, the intrusions, the disrespect, the way he treated my girlfriend. And honestly, some people don't learn from kindness, but everyone learns from consequences. If you enjoyed this story of quiet, calculated justice, hit that like button. It tells YouTube this story was worth hearing. Drop a comment and tell me, what's the worst roommate experience you've ever had? And don't forget to subscribe if you want more stories where karma gets a helping hand. Thanks for watching, and remember, never underestimate the quiet ones.